Shadow work can be incredibly difficult, but without doing shadow work, we risk living our lives in complete pain, misery, and fear. Hello, my name is John, and today I'm going to be sharing 5 essential tips for shadow work that I've successfully taught to over 100 of my clients in one-on-one life coaching sessions. These tips will significantly ease your journey to integrate the shadow, especially tip number 4. But before we get to my first tip, what is shadow work even? It can be really hard to nail down a definition, so I want to help make this very easy to understand. I define shadow work as the process of becoming aware of what's affecting your life and the decisions that you make. To use a very ridiculous analogy, it's like if you didn't know why your house was always so hot, and you're always sweating and you can take cold baths, but you get out and it's hot again. No matter what you do, you can't cool down, but go over to your friend's house and it feels really nice and comfortable. Then you finally have one of your friends come over, take a look at your house, try to see what's going on, what's wrong with it. And they check the thermostat, and it's set to 90 degrees Fahrenheit in the middle of summer. Your friend was acting like a light. They illuminated the shadow, or in this case, the thermostat, you weren't aware of. Again, it's an absolutely ridiculous analogy, but I think it paints a very clear picture. And to be honest, when you do shadow work, some of them feel as ridiculous as not knowing what the thermostat does. So you set the thermostat to a comfortable temperature, you feel much better. You took action, and you improved your life, because the main goal of shadow work is awareness, but also long-term healing. Keep those 2 things in mind as we're going. I think you'll get the hang of it pretty quick. Now, what makes shadow work so tricky is the famous saying of, we don't know what we don't know, which leads to my very first tip for shadow work. Now, this tip is incredibly important for helping you grow, no matter what stage of life you're in. Something we did a lot as students, but we sometimes just don't do a good job after school. But the good thing is, you're doing it right now. That is, I want you to seek out new information and new perspectives on life. And you can do this through books or through YouTube, just like you're doing right now. Often shadow work can really be accomplished just by learning a little bit about a subject that we're having trouble in. When we seek to learn and expand our mind, we give ourselves the chance to see it from a new point of view. I want to paraphrase something Albert Einstein has been credited with saying, and that's, you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. And getting new information literally changes your mind, and it'll help you with integrating your shadow. My second tip has to do with what you're going to do once you have this information. Sometimes we learn about uncomfortable things when doing shadow work, or we approach uncomfortable memories from our past. And it's the most common mistake that I see beginners making. So tip number 2, don't run away just because it's uncomfortable. It's easy to think that just because we're thinking or talking about something uncomfortable, that means it's taboo or bad. My family often didn't like to talk about money with people that were outside the family. I was encouraged to keep all money matters inside the family, and this was fine for the most part, until I went in for my first job interview after college. And I was offered only $13 an hour, which was about $3 below what the market rate was at that time. Talking about money with others was so uncomfortable that I accepted the job, even though I was overqualified and underpaid. I felt miserable for several years because of that decision. My shadow was controlling my life, just like a broken thermostat. Now, I eventually became aware of my shadow of not talking about money, and that's when I made the next mistake that I see a lot of my clients falling into, and it's understandable. We all do it. And when we find these uncomfortable parts of ourselves, it's easy to react with disgust or disappointment. This can often make the problem even worse. Adding judgments just adds shame to our lives, which makes everything harder. That's why tip number 3 is to show yourself and your shadow mercy and understanding. I have a short exercise I like to do with my clients, and I'd like to do it with you right now. So if you will, go ahead and close your eyes. I want you to imagine your shadow, whatever that may be. Imagine your shadow like it's standing in front of you, like it's an actual person. Give shape to that fear of talking about money, your addiction, or that traumatic memory. Imagine like it's standing in front of you like a little child, not even 5 years old. Now imagine that little child is crying. They're in pain. They're afraid. They don't know what to do. So they're causing a mess of your life. But it's not because they hate you. It's because they don't know what else to do. Imagine telling your little shadow that it's going to be all right. That it's not always going to be like this. That you'll protect them. And just pay attention to how it feels to tell your little shadow that you're going to protect them. Now, if you want, you can open your eyes back. And I recommend anytime your shadow comes up, try approaching it with kindness and mercy, like that, instead of the whole shame thing. I think it feels a little bit better. If you're really curious, you can rewind to the beginning of this section and just keep your eyes open and see what's on screen if you want to see what the shame part of that looks like. And I'll let you judge for yourself which one you think is better. Now, tip number 4 is the one that I promised is going to be a doozy. So here it is. We talked a lot in this video about what to do when you encounter your shadow in the wilderness or life just happens to you. But if you want to be the best you can be, you're going to want to be a lot more proactive about it. Especially if you have a business that you want to grow or you want to get married and you don't want your wee little shadow getting in the way and causing a mess of your life. So you need to know how to identify and find your shadows. The best way to identify your shadow is to examine your life and see results you're getting in life. Because all of these results, they come from certain actions that you've taken in life. Those actions come from your thoughts, and your thoughts come from certain emotions. There's one more layer to go, because the shadow lives at a belief level. Beliefs are often kicked off by an event that we experience, whether it's feeling hot in your house, or someone saying something rude to us, or even someone saying something nice to us. So, now that we've kind of examined the whole path of where your results are coming from, they eventually end up back at the belief. That's the first thing in this pattern that you can actually control or do something about, because you can't control what the world does to you sometimes. So it boils down to, what do you believe about yourself? Do you believe that you're a terrible person? It's probably a shadow. Do you believe that people are always going to betray you? It's probably a shadow. Do you believe that no matter what you do, you're never gonna amount to anything? That's a shadow. I want you to write down these shadows and limiting beliefs. And then I want you to write down what you would rather believe instead. Sometimes this is genuinely enough to cause a shadow to integrate, not cause problems in your life anymore. Sometimes awareness of the problem, all you need, and it goes away. But that's only sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes it's not that easy, or sometimes we don't know what we want to believe, or it's so hard to find out what we want to believe otherwise. So that's why tip number 5, you don't have to do shadow work alone. Working with trusted friends, mentors, or certified coach or therapist can be amazing ways to accelerate how quickly you integrate your shadow into your life. And that's going to help you live a lot more peacefully, with a lot less anxiety, a lot more fulfillment. Now, certain techniques are really fast at helping people integrate their shadow. Kind of like the one I talked about earlier, but there are some out there that are really slow and don't work very well. I've spent the last 5 years of my life working on integrating my shadow. Now, full disclaimer, I'm not perfect, but that's what shadow work's for. You keep working on it, you don't give up. And I've tried tons of ways over the past several years, and I've paid a lot for it. Over $50,000 in courses and in-person mentors and you name it. And the beauty is that now I have this knowledge that I get to share with you. And I've found there is one technique that really stands out above it all. That's NLP. I found that NLP was by far the fastest and most effective way to integrate my shadow. That's why I teach NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming techniques, in my one-on-one sessions. If you'd like a free consultation to see if I can help you, schedule a free call on my Calendly link. Now, this is just the first in my series on shadow work. If you're interested in learning more about how you can make massive changes to improve your life, subscribe. I'll see you next time. Take care.